let me know or raise your hand. I can unmute you as well. And then we can start with your question. Remember, this is a Q&A. I do not have an agenda myself. It is totally led by those who are on the call. And there's only a small group of you. Gregory, I'm going to unmute you. I allowed you to talk. Now you can unmute yourself.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. Thank you. Thank you very much for just hosting this call. I appreciate that.
No problem. What can I help you with today?
So I guess what I would like to know is like what would be like some best practices for like just getting started. So a perfect example, I have a few open files right now that I'm working with some clients, like about 3 refis and 2 purchase deals. And I want to be able to begin to do some basic TCAs and include the video. I think the video would be very, very helpful, especially with the current pandemic right now. So I wanted to know, how could we like jump right in and just start to get our feet wet with sending clients like a very easy to understand TCA analysis of their options, I guess.
Okay, so I always tell people that the best thing to do is set aside about 45 minutes to start with, and that's to set up templates. Templates are going to be the foundation. So I just went into settings over here, clicked on fee templates. Basically, a fee template is going to be any of your APR, non-APR fees. It does not include your prepaids or your escrows in these. And then make sure that you are checking if any of them are, none of them happen to be, if any of them are APR, you can check that APR. It's as simple as add a fee, type in the first letter, it'll take you to that section, and then scrolling to find it. If you have a loan estimate, grab that loan estimate and just copy it. And I would just say, start with the basics. Start with whatever purchase you do most frequently. If you are most frequently just doing conventional loans, make sure that conventional loan is in there. If you're doing FHA, make sure that FHA loan is in there. You can also set up who's going to be paying the fee. And this is a standard template that you want to make sure you have in place. Once you build one, it's really easy to build the others, because I have this one. Now, instead of create a new template, if I click save as, I can put the new name in there. Let's say I'm going to do a VA purchase. Type OK. It's going to start me off with all those fees already. So then I would only need to adjust whichever fee would adjust. So it's really not going to take you a long time to build these out.
There was a very good about 45-minute YouTube video that went through this line item by line item, and I was able to create some templates with what the gentleman outlined, as well as plug in some of my origination fees, my processing fee, and our underwriting fee, which more times than not are probably our standard. So I was able to get that done. However, when I saved it, I wasn't sure. It was like I was losing it felt like I was losing that particular template. Like when I went back into like my current files, and you know how when you go to your dashboard, it has like the most recent file worked on. Mm-hmm. It wasn't showing a brand new template from the most current date. So that was an issue that I had ran into yesterday, and I'm pretty sure that mechanically there's something that I wasn't doing correctly.
Okay, once you place them in here, they should automatically save. But you will not see them in your clients, and I clicked on Mortgage Coach to come back to the home screen, until you click on the client, you click on the product, and then from that product, this is a different set of templates. This is a second set of templates. Click on the next. In that closing cost details, you have a drop down where you'll find your templates.
Okay.
So this is where you should see those templates. The second set of templates is the product template. And a product template is really great for those products that have upfront funding fees, monthly MIs, anything that is not standard in there from product to product. So I'm just going to jump into, let's see if I have VA because it's a first one, good one. So let's say I'm doing a VA one. I'm only going to put what stays stagnant in here. So if it's something that changes all the time, I'm not going to place it in here. So I put in the name. The more specific your name is, the more specific you can be. So if I was doing a 5% VA, I would want to add 5% if that was a product I'm doing. So VA has 0 down. I added my upfront premium here, which then opened up this little funding fee where I can switch it back and forth based on if it's a dollar amount, but we know that that's 2.3 now. And then I always add it to the loan, so I click the little button, so it's always added to the loan for me. Adding in my prepaid days of interest, you want to stay standardized. I always use 15. This is a 30-year loan, so I put 360. And then these down here don't pertain, so I've left them alone. In my closing cost is where I now tie in that fee template. So clicking on that closing cost, I'm going to do that same thing. I would go down, I would find my VA purchase, and I would apply it to the loan. The last thing I'm going to be able to do is any of my monthly cost. So this is also great if you do construction loans and you have an area that has the same HOA. You can put that construction loan name in there, and then you can make sure that it always includes that HOA so you don't forget it. Hazard insurance and property tax, you can put as a dollar amount or as a percentage. I know many underwriters use like 80 bucks automatically to just be able to approve the loans. So if you, instead of putting the amount, you wanted to just put that $85, you could put that in there. But that's knowing your underwriters, what they're using for approval rate. But just whatever you use, stay consistent. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down, add in hazard insurance, collect my 12 months and my tax reserves. Now, if I don't want to add these, I would still click on that 12-month premium just so I can come in and add the months if yours changes that frequently. And then you have a product template. And the advantage of that product template is when I'm going into my client, and let's say I'm going to build out, I'm just going to do add it as a product. So I'm going to move to that last page so I can add a new product. Now I can put my VA loan and I can drop in that product template of the VA, and everything's going to be in there except my interest rate. So I'm not going in and I'm not going to be adding in a bunch of factors in there. So now this, I can always go through, check and verify or change anything I want, but I'm going to be able to quickly have that VA in there to drop in to be able to just change the things that I know aren't based on my consistent factors I've placed in my template. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, now I'm going to read a question in here. If I put all the fees in, do I have to use the other buttons to add 12 months on the insurance and escrow? The other question I have is client has a first and second, want to refi and get rid of the second. Okay, so if you're adding in the fees, remember when you do the fees in the fee template, do not add your prepaids in here and do not add your escrows in here. This is just going to be your APR, non-APR fees. If you're consistently adding in, let's say, seller concessions, right now it's not really a seller concession market, but if you are consistently adding seller concessions, you can add in there the fee that's contributions. So that's already in there and just leave it as a 0. Another one is down payment assistance. If you do down payment assistance always on your FHA, you can add down payment assistance in there on that FHA. So you'll be able to just click on it, and then if it's always 3 or 5%, you can add that as well. Down payment assistance I always place as broker paid. But remember, don't place those escrows in here or the prepaids in there. So that should answer your question, Carrie, on that one. Any other questions, Gregory, before I move on to the next one?
I had one, but it did slip it kind of slipped my mind. If I have if I'm working on just a generic contract, and I get, let's say it's a purchase, and I got the agreement of sale from the realtor, and just so I can give the client an idea of what the mortgage would look like, I already plugged in their fees. I know the down payment amount and the type of loan, far as if it's a 30-year FHA or conventional. That would just be a regular TCA report, correct?
It would be, but you never want to show just one product.
Right. So would you do like would you compare the FHA versus the conventional?
If they're an FHA versus conventional, that is always what I show them, because many times other loan officers are saying they only qualify for FHA because they don't have that conventional available. If it's a conventional loan and they're going 20% down conventional, points versus no points.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great information, because that's exactly what it is. When you say points versus no points, you would just add the like, I guess, ballpark the discount points what the market is, correct?
Yep, I would just show them the impact of different interest rates, and then that extra money they would have to come in. Or if it's someone who's really tight on their cash to close, I would show them lender credit versus points. All good?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just taking some shorthand notes. That's all.
Nope, that's good.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to go ahead and mute you back. And let's find Carrie. I was getting to you, Carrie. I was going to unmute you. So Carrie, refining second and a first together.
Yes.
So when you go in to do that, and we're going to make your client. How are you today?
Wonderful. How are you?
I am doing swell. Living life big here in my little condo.
Good.
And this is a refi. I'm just going to go in and place. I always like just using other when I do refis because I work with my own numbers. Now here's where I see a lot of problems come into play. On this current assumption page, I always only place in this current property value, which is the appraisal value. And I'll tell you the reason why. I go in and I place in current mortgage information. If I don't have it exact, I will play with the numbers till I have that payment, the P&I payment, where it looks like it's about right. And then I can come in and I can override what that payoff amount is. If I place numbers in here, it's going to override anything I place in here. So this is for when you absolutely don't have anything about that current mortgage.
Okay.
That's when you want to place in information in this spot. Otherwise, going to that current mortgage, placing in information here, let's say 2011, original loan amount. I got to look and see how much you use, 350. So let's say 279. They're at a 5%. 360, and then it's going to give me a remaining balance based on a normal amortization. So let's say they made extra payments, and they only have $2,100 that they owe.
Right.
I can go in and just type right over it. Now it's going to capture that, but it's not going to adjust my P&I payment. So then I'll finish this loan by adding in my hazard insurance and property tax, and you do not want to use a percentage here. You want to use the actual numbers because you don't want it adjusting when you go in and you copy it to your first product. If there is mortgage insurance, you can place that on there. And here's where it's, does this product have a second lien? Here's my rule of thumb with second liens. If you are subordinating, do not add that second lien. If you are not subordinating, if you're rolling it in, which is what you're doing here. Add that in there. And then you can put the information on the second. I'm going to say they took it out as a SIMO. And I'm going to say, I'm just going to make it easy, 50,000, 3.2. I'm going to say it's a 30-year. And I'm going to say that it's the first 10 years is interest only. So we can see in here, they've only been making interest only payments. They still have that 50,000 left to pay. And now I can move on and I'm going to go to my first product. What it's going to do is when I copy from another product is the first thing. I'm going to copy that current. That's going to bring over all that information so I have two identical loans. Now what I'm going to do is switch it to yes, it's a refi. And what it's going to do when I do that is it's automatically going to add that second to my base loan amount. So now it's added the first and the second together, and now I can just work it like a normal loan. I can go in there, place in the new interest rate, click on my next, drop in my closing costs for my refi, apply that to the loan. If there are points, I'd add points. I'm going to give them 5 days of interest just so it's in there. And then on this last page, it already has hazard insurance and property tax. I'm just going to collect 2 and 2. And I'm going to now remove the second. Simply unchecking the second here is going to make it so it does not show up and it doesn't add into the numbers. Does that all make sense?
It does until I do it, but that's okay.
I am recording this, so if you want a copy of the recording, you know, send me an email, Tina@mortgagecoach, saying, Tina, send me that copy of the Q&A.
Okay.
Okay.
The other question I have on there is, how do you know when they make their first payment? Like if you go back and you're looking at their current situation, do you do approximates like when they purchased the house?
So what I normally do is there's 2 spots I'll look. Credit report. If you look on the credit report, it will typically tell you that first payment date.
Okay.
If you pulled credit. If you haven't pulled credit, I don't know if you have access to title and escrow company, but if you do, they record the closing date and it's typically 30 days after the closing date.
Okay.
So that's where I come up with the first, and a lot of times just playing with the numbers in that spot. If something doesn't look right, if I have their statement, which many times we already have their statement, you'll be able to look and see, okay, based off their statement, this is their P&I payment, and I might have to adjust that original loan amount to get the P&I payment correct. And then I just play with that remaining balance.
Okay. That makes sense.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yep. Thanks.
Perfect. You're welcome. I'm going to mute you. Any other questions on a refinance? And if you do, you can raise your hand, or if you have another direction you want me to go into, raise your hand and I can unmute you so you can go in there. Jill, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good morning. Hey, I wonder, I'm a new LO. I'm just trying to understand, and I think I kind of got an answer to my question today, but at what point in the sales process am I using this?
So this can actually be used throughout the whole process of having the client. So initially, when you first have your client and you want to show them a general pre-approval without running their credit and just talk numbers as far as what ifs, you know, what do you think you can qualify for? How much are you currently paying for your rent or your wherever you're staying to try to get a similar payment? Then that could be an initial pre-approval that you can go in and do. Now, once you've run their credit, of course, it's a better pre-approval because then you have those numbers and you've looked at their DTI and you know what they qualify for. Some loan officers will not do the pre-approval without running credit first, and completely understand. But once you get this all locked in and running, you can actually build out a strategy template where I can come in here with a strategy template, and let's say I'm going to do a basic FHA versus conventional. I can copy this to a new client. Now, what a strategy template is it has everything for each of these products in there that stays stagnant. So all my fees are in there, and the different products, so MI and all those factors are in there. All I need to do is copy to a new client, and let's say you're sitting in front of me here. I would go in and I would just type in your first name, and I would put down here pre-approval. And the reason why is because I'm going to use this later on to update it to give you real numbers once I run your credit. I'm going to skip the contact. I'm going to skip the goals because they're already in there because I've made this as a template. I'm going to go in my assumption, and we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to get a roundabout number. So I'm going to say you're going to qualify for around 279 is what we're looking at. All I need to do is go into my FHA, look up what my interest rate is, add in that interest rate. Everything else is set in this based on basic standards of a average client. I'm going to go in here to my second one, which is my 5% conventional, add in whatever the interest rate is on this one. Now, on my 5% conventional, I do like going in and asking, how's your credit and everything, because if I know that they don't have great credit, I might want to come in here and adjust my monthly MI on that 5% conventional. But I already have a complete presentation now, and I've only added in just a couple of items. So it really does come into having this set up for you so you can come in and you can quickly run it. And I'm going to just click generate shared link. Since most of us are not in a situation where we're with our client, you can now copy this, send it to the client while you're on that same conversation. And then once you go into this, and I'm going to click add audio video, which would go back to Gregory, yours with adding audio video. You can just click in web browser and it'll start it here. But now I can go through and I can highlight it. So if I gave this to my client, and I'm going to drop this down in my panelist link. And if you want to click on that link down there, then up here when someone clicks on it, I'm going to be able to see that they clicked on it and that they went into the presentation. As soon as I see that my client's in that presentation, I can then come down here and I can start highlighting. And highlighting is simply clicking the mouse button in order to highlight, and it will highlight automatically on your client's screen. So now I can talk through it and I can say, you know what, there is a payment difference, and that payment difference is about $89 between the two. But you do need less cash to close on the FHA. So let's talk first about which one's going to be more relevant to you. Now, after I've done that pre-approval with the client, then I can come back once I have real numbers and just update this template. As I go through the process, I'm going to continue updating that template till we're to close. Once we've closed, I'm going to come back here, and this is a new button for anyone who has been with me for a while. I'm going to click on that funded button. I'm going to choose which loan they did. I'm going to say they picked that 5% conventional, and I'm going to say that today was their funding day, April 23rd. And the reason I'm going to do this is because later on, when I am ready to do an annual mortgage review, I know all of the details about that loan. Does that make sense now, Jill?
Yes, thank you very much. That was very helpful.
You're welcome. I'm going to go over to my questions. I have several questions popping in. Property profile helps with determining. Yes, property profile does help with determining the first. Also, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac lookup. I believe they're recorded in there as well. Now that I'm thinking about it, I haven't looked that up for a while. What templates should I use for comparing a current loan with no second lien to two loan products that will have 2 second liens? Okay, if you have a mic, I'm actually going to unmute you. If you have a mic, you can unmute yourself. And I'm just gonna,
Yes. Hello.
hi, how are you? How do you say your first name?
Julia.
Olia. Okay. I didn't want to butcher it.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you.
Okay, so on the one with the 2-second liens, are they 2 silent seconds, or what are those second liens?
Like basically they have a loan that is a jumbo loan. They don't have a second lien. And so it's like a huge loan, but the one that I'm going to do for them is going to break it up into 2 loans.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to figure, and they're both going to be different options. And so I'm
Mhm.
trying to figure out which template to use for that.
Okay, so when you go in, I would start with a new client on that because it would, are you refinancing?
Yes.
Okay, I would go in and I would do the refi for them. And on that goals, I'm going to choose other. When I go into my assumptions, I'm going to say, and I'm just going to say they qualify for 1.2 on that, or that's the amount that their home is going to appraise at. Now I'm going to go into that current mortgage and I'm going to put into their, what do they currently have? So their current date that they first quote payment on. I'm going to say their original loan amount was $800,000 at an interest rate of 4.125, 360 months, and it's going to give me that remaining balance where I can adjust it if I need.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to adjust it up. I'm going to say that they refinanced it and took some cash out. Now when I go over, I'm just going to simply add in their hazard insurance and their property tax. When I go to my first product, this is going to be a first and second. I'm going to copy from the original, so the current loan. And now I'm going to go in and whatever I'm going to break it down. So if I'm doing this as a high balance, which is 625 here in California, I can make this amount here 625. And then the remaining balance amount I'm going to be able to place as my second loan. I'm going to place in my interest rate, whatever the new interest rate is, add in my closing cost. Add in my prepaid days of interest. And then on this page, I'm going to just do my hazard insurance, property tax, and does this include a second? Yes, it does. And now I'm going to move into the factors on that second. So I would then figure out how much is my second, place that in there, and then interest rate term. Now here you do have the ability to switch it out. So it's an ARM or a HELOC. So I could adjust those if I wanted to. If I do switch it to HELOC, it will open up and ask me what's the minimum payment. Is it either a dollar amount or a percentage? Is there a draw period? As well as it'll ask me for all the adjustment caps. Same thing if I was to switch it over to an ARM as well. The ARM is going to open up that second page where I place in adjustment caps and tie it to the index and everything that I need. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Oh, thank you.
Great. Go ahead and unmute yourself again. Do you have another question?
Thank you. I believe it was already answered.
Okay. I just forgot to put your hand down.
No worries. I understand.
Any other questions or anything else? Subordinating a second on a refi. So Joanne, if I am subordinating a second on a refi, I am not going to show it. And if I do want to show it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in first and I'm going to show that carry refi that we just did. And when I build out my initial loan, I am not going to put that it initially has a second on it. So I'm going to remove that second when I first start. And then I'm going to go in and I'm just going to do it like it's a normal refi. I'm going to copy from the current loan. I'm going to add in my closing cost detail information. And if I really want to show that second at this time, I would go in and I would place the second in on the product that I built, as well as I would place the second back in on that current mortgage. And the reason I like doing it that way is because if you add the second here when you first start, you do have that option, but you have to go in and back out that second from your product. So that 279 here, I would have to come in here and I would have to back it out to that base loan amount of whatever that remaining loan amount would be with the second. Does that make sense? Have a good day, Carrie. I'm gonna unmute you. There you go. You can unmute yourself.
Oh, yes, it makes sense now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I always tell people it's that second that always gets people when you're refinancing what you do on that second. Remember, if you're subordinating, I like not placing it in there. If I'm rolling it in, I always place it in there. If my client does want to see it, I'll place the subordinating one back in after I've done my TCA initially. And Greg, I don't know if your hand just keeps going up or if you do have a question.
Am I still unmuted?
You're good. I can hear you.
Okay. No, I'm manipulating this through my cell phone while I have the mortgage coach application up right now, so it probably was just a mistake.
Okay. No, sometimes it sometimes it'll get a glitch where it'll just keep making the first person who raised their hand keep going up. So I just wanted to make sure if it was that's what happened.
That's lovely.
I know. So now I'll know that if your hand goes back up again, it's not you, it's the system.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? And for those of you asking, is this recorded? This is recorded. However, I am not very good at remembering who asked for a copy of it and who doesn't. So you do have to email me, tina@mortgagecoach.com, to remind me to send you a copy once it is sent over and put into YouTube. So I'm not seeing any other questions or no hands raised. If you do have a question, you're welcome, Jill. Have a great day. Okay, let's go into a couple of little extra things that might help you for those who are pushing out refis. One thing is in the assumptions now, there is a free and clear button. So if you do have a current loan that they are working on, but it's free and clear, you can click on that free and clear and it takes it so you don't have to fill in that second page that's all about the start date of it, but it does allow you to put in hazard insurance and property tax information. So that's the first one. Next one I'll talk about is on that monthly cost, there is a little field here that says other. This is a great field for, let's say that they have debt and you're rolling debt in and you want to talk about the difference in the debt to income ratio and how that's going to impact them. I can then put credit cards, put how much their credit cards are. And when I do my copy, it's going to copy this automatically into that presentation or that first product. But if you're going to be working with the debt to income ratio and you don't want to do the calculations yourself, you can go into the current gross income, place in whatever their income is, Non-mortgage debt, you're only going to place the stuff in there that you did not place previously. So if it was part of that 700, I'm not going to place it in there, but I'm going to say they have a $150 payment that school loans that they don't want to pay down because interest rate's so low or non-existent right now on some of them. Now when I go into my first product, I would copy that product, again, that current, clicking on the OK. I'm going to say we're just going to do a 30-year. And the first one I'll probably show is just a basic refi without rolling that money in. And I'm just adding in the refi information. So I'm adding in my closing cost, prepaid days of interest, and you guys have seen this twice already. Actually, we only want 5 because it's a refi. And now you'll see my credit cards are pulled over here. So this one I am not rolling those credit card fees in. At the end of here, I'll do that. Does it have another product? Yes, it does. And this is going to be consolidation. I'm going to copy it from that 30-year loan because I've already placed in all the fees, everything in there. So I don't want to have to go through and do all of that. And then what I can do once I'm in this one, I can come in here and whatever that amount is for that 700 to cover it, I'm just going to raise my base loan amount. So I'm going to say they're going to go up to 300,000. Now you'll see over here, my debt to income ratio shows the difference of what's going to happen based on doing that, but it still has that 700 in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and simply zero it out. I'm going to use the back button so we're still on the screen. Now we can see rolling that debt in is going to free up more money for them every single month, so they don't have to worry about trying to pay that extra 700. And we can even see up here where the difference in the payment's going to be. And I think I put it in. Nope, I did right. The other factor is cash out. You can see I have no cash out showing, but when you are doing this, there's 2 little buttons that I want you to notice. Closing cost details. I can roll all of my fees into the loan and it's automatically going to increase my loan amount when I do this. If I'm doing points, I'll want to add that as well as my prepaid days of interest. So this one's glitchy. I'm in a demo account, so if they're doing work on the back end, mine won't show. But I would do the same thing with this one over here, and it would show that extra amount of money that I'm rolling out. So any questions on that? Just remember, increase your amount of your loan. However much you're paying off, increase that base loan amount, and that's what's going to allow you to be able to get that extra cash out. Is there a way to compare initial P&I mortgage versus current P&I mortgage versus refi options you're giving? So initial P&I payments, unless you're on an ARM loan, would be the same as your current P&I payment. So I'm not sure on that. And if that's what you want to do is only work with that P&I payment, then I just wouldn't include my property tax and stuff, but you can show them. And I'm just going to go to a preview and show you in that preview. You can show them where it's all broke out. So if you go into that more information here, you can come in here and it has that P&I payment broken out. So you'll be able to demonstrate to the client that information. So in case you didn't see where I went, in the summary area, more information. So it is all broke out. You're welcome. And in most refis, I'm going to show it this way. I'm going to always show that current on a refi, because once you have that in there, there are so many things you can do in here. For example, if I'm looking for the break-even point on that monthly payment difference, at what point is it going to be beneficial for you to refi or not refi? I can go into the analysis screen over here, and I am going to be able to adjust this short-term analysis month to find that break-even point. And what I'm doing is, where is this closest to 0? So if I go in, I'm going to say 48 months. You'll see this adjust. So there's still, let's do 50 months. Let's go to 70 months. And you're just trying to make it so it's at 0. So mine is having some glitches, but playing with this, honestly, the short term does make it work. So you can come in and see the differences and be able to see where that break-even point is. And it might be just because my interest rates are so close. Show where we can find these recording trainings. Okay, I'll give you guys the link. And this, I normally just send the link out, but I have to actually give you the link in YouTube, and all of my Q&A calls are in this link. And I try to, though I don't always remember, actually it's under Thursday, to notate what's in that call. But this is where this call will be dropped as well. And I'll put the date. You'll see I'll put the date in there on which date that I created it. So there's that link down there in the chat box. Another one I really like in here, while I'm giving links out, you're welcome, is this one here. Anyone who is new or anyone who is ready to learn some new strategies, maybe you haven't worked with the cost of weight, this is my favorite playlist for teaching. And the reason why is all of these are super short. Most of them are under 10 minutes. And so when you go in here, when you first start out, how to create your fee template, start with that fee template one. It's only 5 minutes and 35 seconds. How to do a product template, that's in there. Strategy template comes into play. And then once you get down here towards the bottom, this is where you're going to start seeing more of the strategies, cost of waiting, annual mortgage review, using that reinvestment strategy. Up here also, open house flyer, refinance. So this is really my favorite list because they are short, to the point, start and stop it as you go through it. So you can work alongside of it when you're doing them. So this one I need to watch, how to enter a HELOC. So if you are one of those loan officers using the HELOC and you want everything explained, this is a very deep dive into that HELOC, but it's only 5 minutes. So it's a great asset. Any other questions? We have about 15 minutes, so plenty of time to dive into just about anything for me. Okay, let's go back and let's look at why we're talking mostly refinance this one. Another thing that I would use is, let's say I'm doing a refinance with a 30-year, and that's all they qualify for, and they really can't bring in cash. They want to roll everything into the loan. I'm going to show them 2 scenarios. I'm going to show them doing that and just doing a basic refinance, but then I'm going to also apply extra principal towards that refinance to maintain them at the same payment. So going into new clients and just putting in basic information, This is going to be 30-year versus same payment. And I'm just going to go into the ones that I need to go into. Going into my assumptions, putting in how much they're expected to appraise at, going in and putting in my payment information. Original loan amount. Interest rate. Term. Again, it's going to give me that remaining balance. And then I'm going to go into my monthly cost. So I have all my loan in there. Now I'm going to do first product. And this is going to be a basic 30-year refi. Copy from current. Adjust the interest rate. Add in my closing cost. So I'm just doing the same thing I've done on the other ones. Dropping that down, applying it to the loan, adding in my prepaid days of interest, and then adding in my months over here for my escrow account. Adding a second product. Second product is going to be same payment. Simply am going to copy that 30-year refi. I have two identical products. All my work is going to now be done in this analysis page. Down here, there is a button, Adjust Reinvestment Strategy. And I'm going to see they're saving $100 here every month. So on this loan, on this little spot right here where it says reduction payment, I'm going to drop that $97.14. Tabbing off of there, now we can see right now they're paying 21 years, almost 22 years, and they're dropping it down to 19 and a half years. So a really good spot for those people who say, I don't want to roll all that interest back into a 30-year loan, even though that is the ideal place for them to be able to get a lower interest rate but apply towards that second principal. But especially right now in today's market, I would probably be suggesting the 30-year over a 15-year, even if payments are similar, because they're locked into that lower payment. So let's say something was to happen and they wouldn't be able to make a payment, then I would be able to still save them that extra $100. So on here, you can see it zeroed out my same payment. If I come here, there's a little spot right here, exclude reinvestment in monthly payment. I click that box. It's going to still show that savings in the presentation. Savings over 60 months, you're going to see here. Let's see if this one will work for break-even point. Let's do 36 months. That's too much. 48 months. Oh, we're really close on that 48 months. So around 47 months is the break-even point here on this one. And on this one, the break-even point is even greater or less because you're applying extra money towards the principal. So if we go in there, let's put 40 months, 42. We're getting closer, 44. So on that same payment, less than 4 years, this is going to be that break-even point where they're going to start seeing. So if they're going to keep it less than that 44 months, then refinancing will not be benefit for them. And then down here, I'm going to show them that total principal paid, because they're going to now be able to see, even though they're refinancing it, because the interest rate is less, they are applying more money towards principal. So even if they roll back that 30-year, because less money is being applied towards interest, more money is being able to be applied towards that principal, allowing them to be able to pay it at a more rapid speed. And then we can see that same payment is by far the best choice if they just want to maintain that same payment. Any questions on that? Thank you, Laura. And on your one, resubordinating a second versus cash out, refi to pay it off, it's going to be the same difference when you, or actually, no, it won't. So I would, on that one, on the resubordinating, of course, I would build it out to start it off without that second on there. And then I would add that loan on there and I would show them one product with that resubordination. And then I would show them the second product increasing the loan amount for the cash out to allow them to pay it off. And I would probably show them a third option of rolling it in. So they actually have 3 options. If they're comfortable with it, they can leave it alone, resubordinate it, they can take the cash out and pay it off, or they can increase their primary and roll it in and make extra payments towards the principal here in that adjust reinvestment strategy, where you can show them how they can probably pay it off. Well, it depends on the interest of that second. If that second is interest only, of course, nothing's going to that. So you can even show when you're doing a second in here. Yes, absolutely. When you're doing a second in here, you can even show payments directly just towards that second. So if you show the first and second on these, then on that second, you can show doing extra principal payments of the savings towards the second loan if they're going to subordinate it. It assumes every single month if I just put it in this box. Now, let's say I have someone who is coming in and they are getting a bonus check and they want to see how that bonus check, should they just apply the bonus check here, or should they use that bonus check in order to refinance and maybe pay the closing cost? I can go in here and I can click on here to show a one-time bonus. Let's say they're going to get it in 3 months and it's $5,000. But if I place this in there, I have to turn it off, because the assumption right now is that every single month they're making $5,000 payment. In order to turn it off, all I have to do is add a 0 sign to it or 0 line to it, save it, and now it's going to show that extra payoff, but it shows custom here. So unless you have it turned off, it is assuming it is every single month. And another one that's really good to show is the current versus the 30-year versus investments. So if I wanted to do another one, so that one's same payment. Let's go to the end of that same payment to add another product. This is going to do investment. Simply copy that 30-year. And now I can do all that work again in that analysis. And instead of applying that extra money towards there, and something happened, but instead of applying that extra money there, I would be able to come down here, add in my rate of return. I'm going to say that they're going to get a 6.6 return on average. And that 97.14 is going to be down here at this spot to show them in 15 years, you're going to have $29,000, almost $30,000. And if I'm doing an investment, I'm then going to show them total net worth. And that's going to show, is it going to be better to continue making the same payment and pay off principal, or will you have more value if you place it into an investment account? So that's another great one to show if you're just doing a basic 30-year refi. What do we do with that extra cash? How do we build the most net worth for you in order to make sure? Because we've been told for years paying off a home and owning a home is the American dream. Reality is you can own homes, but if you're in debt in other places and you really don't have any net worth, you're not of value. And that's not the American dream. The American dream is to be able to have something to live your life or pass on to your family, not to be in debt in other ways, and not to be able to build net worth the fastest. So teach your client to build that net worth. And right now, investment, I know things are down. So if they can pull out cash, and if they're a risk taker and they're young enough and drop it into the stock market, into something that will go up, you know, that's what I would be suggesting to my clients if they're comfortable with it. But it does take a certain client that is willing to go in there and do that. And if you're not part of our Facebook group, I suggest coming in and joining our Facebook group and actually looking up in here, Dan. And Dan is going to go in every single day. He comes in and he does his explanation of what's going on with the market. So right here's today's what's going on with the market. And he will do a video and he will write it out both. So right now, Laura, our big thing that we are working on is actually our debt consolidation. So we are going to have a true debt consolidation, and that should be rolling out no later than the end of May. I am so excited for that. But there is a couple of things you can do for an investment property. So if you are working with someone with an investment property, one thing that you can do is on that spot where it says other, let's say this is an investment property, I can go in and in this other field, I can put rents collected. And I can put however much that rent is, and it's going to offset their payment. When it comes to showing that payment, that rent connect, oops, I needed to put a negative in front of it. Now we'll see it offset the payment. There we go. So now we're showing that only this much money is coming out of their pocket based on that total payment, but it's offsetting that payment. That's one little trick you can use that's going to be good. And this is really good when you're showing someone taking money, refinancing their first, and then also using the money they pull out, cash out, to buy an investment property. So if they can use that rent collected to offset their DTI as far as being qualified, then that's a great place to show that offset and that difference. And many times what will happen is when they put that money down, they'll see that they have a surplus versus coming in with cash, which then can be applied towards their current to reduce their current payment. So a lot of times when you're playing with those numbers, you'll see it's very similar if you're refinancing that first, if they have a lot of cash, because most people have 50% equity in their home. Pulling part of that money out and then going and buying a second property is a fabulous idea to teach your clients to build net worth. So any other questions? It is top of the hour. Before I jump off last minute, you're welcome. So thank you guys all for showing up today. I hope that you guys are doing well and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.